Uh-oh.
Talking of opportunities that might have fallen through or promises that weren't met, one opportunity that gained some real excitement that you mentioned at the start was this undisputed tournament. Now, did you ever believe, looking at that fight poster, that all of these fighters were going to get signed to a tournament contract, we're all going to fight, and all the belts and everything in the weight division was going to be tied up and we were going to get an undisputed champion? Did you ever believe that that was going to happen truly?
Now, let me tell you something. It was done. Every fighter signed a contract, myself included. We all signed the contract. We all knew the next step. Everything was done. I heard about it first months ago. Someone from Lou DiBella's team reached out to me and said, would you be interested? Didn't even ask when, where, the money, nothing. I said, sign me up. That's my path to all the titles. It's just what all I dreamed of. And then it went quiet and I kept texting. Then I've been in camp for so long, so I ended up going to Spain for like a week, just over a week. And I was doing a training camp back there, but I just needed to change of scenery. And I was like, I'm going to go to Spain. Went to La Cala with my partner, was training, working my ass, thinking, is this tournament going to happen, is it not? And then we got sent the poster. And I was like, it's done. It's finally over the line. We heard there was... Lou DiBella was looking for funding for it. Then we heard it was, what channel was it going to be on? And then I remember Spencer, my manager, saying to me, and now Spencer's got his ears on the ground, he's the main man in boxing, he knows what's going on, what's not. And he was like, Shad, it's still not a done deal, you know. I've got a call with Lou DiBella coming up, but I'll keep you updated. And then just nothing ever coming to fruition with it. So you're grinding your arse off, working away, and then again, nothing happens. So... do I think it's going to happen now? No. If it does, it will happen maybe next year. But people have mandatories they have to fulfil. People have dates. People have lives and they want to fight. People have bills to pay, you know. You can't sit around waiting for someone to come up. We've got things to do. And then in the end, Spencer went, let's just get you on this show and then we can charge forward then. We're not waiting around for someone else to hold your journey in their hand and not even have the audacity to give you an update about it. So we're just going to take things into our own hands now.
I knew to curb my enthusiasm when it was proposed months ago that there could be an 8-woman tournament in the bantamweight division featuring all of the reigning champions, all 3 of them.
Dina Doisland, Shonika Johnson,
Miyo Yoshida. It would seem that Lou DiBella's plan to put this thing together didn't happen soon enough for Shannon Courtenay, and now she's moved on. She's going to be boxing this weekend on the undercard of Adam Azim versus O'Hara Davies, which we've talked about. I don't blame her.
It's just like she said. People have got lives, bills to pay. The champions have mandatories to satisfy.
You might remember I once told you here on the channel, the tournament format in the paid ranks is a logistics nightmare because there are so many moving parts and so many things happening simultaneously.
So many things that need to, and so many things that can.
While the weeks and months are passing by as you search for a financier to pay for this tournament, sooner or later mandatories are going to end up in the queue. They're going to have to be satisfied, all while you search for a financier. And if you're fortunate enough to even find one, you still have to worry about illness and injury, anything that could impede the tournament.
Everything.
So I knew not to get too excited when I heard about it. I knew to curb my enthusiasm. Lou DiBella's intentions may have been good.
I don't think he was leading them on, or trying to. I think he wholeheartedly wanted to make this happen, but it doesn't all fall on him, and he by himself doesn't have the resources. These fighters,
and they're all very good, talented, that if you actually put this together, every fight would be an action fight. But the problem is, they're not ticket sellers. A lot of people don't know them, and thus, Finding somebody to invest in this thing, to roll the dice and stake their money hoping they can get it back,
It's gonna be tough.
this is a business. That's why you should never have these conversations in an arena where it's about it being right or wrong to support female boxers. That's not the lens you have to look at this through. Right and wrong don't even come into it.
No?
Well, that's just virtue signaling, claiming to support them because it's the right thing to do. Sorry, Sir Lancelot, but you can't guilt trip people into watching something they're not interested in. So what you have to do is get them interested. You see, when I started talking about women's boxing here on the channel years ago, it wasn't because it was the right thing to do, it was because the fights were entertaining. The fights, the fighters, and if not for that, I wouldn't talk about it. I talk about it because the product is actually good. It's worth talking about and it's worth watching.
If it wasn't, then I wouldn't.
Right and wrong. Don't even come into it. Is it entertaining? That's the question. By now, we've seen a good number of women's bouts on major platforms that more than delivered, like the more recent Sandy Ryan versus Michaela Mayer fight, the Clarissa Shields versus Savannah Marshall fight, Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano versus Erica Cruz.
You get the gist of it.
And so, we know that the women boxers can entertain an audience the same as the men. They can. But just like the men, they have to be built. Their fights have to be built over time to garner interest, because without that, you can't guilt trip people into watching them.
That ain't gonna work.
It's like the equal pay argument you always hear about when equal pay doesn't exist. It doesn't exist among men.
All the men are not making what all the other men are making. Do you think that every male boxer makes what Canelo makes, or what Inoue makes, what Anthony Joshua makes?
They don't. In order to address the disparity between what a woman boxer makes and what a male boxer makes, what you have to look at is the level of interest in that woman boxer and how you can improve upon that. Because once you improve upon that, she'll start making more.
More money.
It's not one way. It's the same for the men. So if you've got an 8-woman tournament you want to do, but none of the women are really all that well known, not big ticket sellers, it's gonna be rough.
That's reality.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, Oscar De La Hoya fired back at Devin and Bill Haney's lawsuit against Ryan Garcia and Golden Boy Today, saying they don't believe the fact that Garcia versus Haney only did a little over 300,000 buys. This fight just didn't sell, and according to Oscar, what they want to do is have a look at the books.
They might be under the impression that Oscar's not being upfront. He's hiding money from them. I mean, after Canelo Alvarez accused Oscar of stealing money, Juan Manuel Marquez said the same thing. I think Shane Mosley, too.
They think that Oscar might be hiding money from them, so they're trying to get at that money any way they can, hence the lawsuit.
That's what Oscar said.
Thinking about it, maybe Devin Haney went into the Ryan Garcia fight thinking that a fight between them would do what the Gervonta Davis fight did, somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million or over $1 million.
I knew it wasn't going to do that.
I figured maybe it does 500,000, 600,000, but not $1 million. Not what the Gervonta Davis fight did, but maybe Devin and Bill and the team, they thought they might do with Ryan what Gervonta did with Ryan.
And they didn't.
For their troubles, they only did a little over 300,000 pay-per-view buys. So what you have to remember is that going into the Gervonta Davis fight, a lot of Ryan's fans had the illusion of hope because he hadn't lost yet. He was an unbeaten fighter.
In a battle of the unbeaten,
Maybe he can pull this off so that when he gets knocked out the way that he did, his stock took a hit. He has a rebound fight with Oscar Duarte, and he didn't look good in the Oscar Duarte fight,
even though he won.
but his stock took a hit because he didn't look good leading up to the knockout. So that when you make a fight with Devin, perception of the fight,
People ain't excited. They think Ryan's gonna lose.
the way he was wigging out in a build-up, people thinking he's not taking the fight seriously and he's spiraling out of control, none of it lended itself to the fight's marketability, I guess.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of people talking about it online where everything is free, but when push came to shove, how many people actually bought it? And according to Oscar, it was just a little over 300,000 buys. So what was the perception of the fight going in? Going in, everybody thought Ryan was gonna lose.
They weren't that excited.
They already saw Ryan lose to Gervonta Davis. They thought he'd lose again to Devin.
Here comes a boring Devin Haney points decision.
Even if that's not what happened.
Most people were picking Devin Haney to win that fight going into it. There wasn't that much intrigue going into it. And thus, not that many people bought it, not as many people bought it as they bought the Gervonta Davis fight.
So where Bill and Devin may have been expecting to sell upwards of 500 to 600, maybe 700,000 pay-per-view buys, they didn't sell that because of the perception of the fight going in. Now, Ryan winning, quote-unquote winning,
that may have helped his stock and got the bandwagon jumpers to jump back on his bandwagon, but that's afterwards, you understand? That's after the fight was over.
I really don't know why Haney made that decision, but if it works for him, it might change. It might change a lot in boxing. You know, a lot of fighters are really gonna question, doing things that they're not supposed to. You know, he did test positive, so Haney also has the right to make that decision. Would I advise any of my fighters to do it? Probably not. Maybe just get a rematch and get even and try to beat him the right way. But he also has a case. You know, I'm not saying he doesn't. You know, he also has a case. You know, Ryan did test positive, so we'll see how it goes. You know, we'll see how everything turns out. I would rather see the rematch.
reactions to Devin Haney's lawsuit are still pouring in. Not just Oscars. Robert Garcia, veteran trainer, former fighter Robert Garcia, he'd rather just see them run it back. There is a frivolity to Devin Haney's lawsuit. Golden Boy Promotions perhaps owing you money, that's one thing. But you suing Ryan for assault and battery?
In relation to a boxing match, and you're a boxer, you're just as much a part of it.
It's weak.
Do you know why it's weak? Because you're suing Ryan for battery? You're suing Ryan for assault? Aren't you the same guy that tried to assault a Courtenay?
You and your entourage.
That's a rhetorical question because by now we all saw the video. How do you have the gall, the nerve, to try to sue Ryan for assault and battery in relation to a boxing match that you chose to have when you literally tried to assault a non-boxer? And it's a wonder that he's not suing you.
There are no heroes in the story?
Not to me. Ryan is a hack, a cheater. He cheated.
That's what I think.
But Devin is a pussy. Devin is a bitch. And he's going about this like a bitch.
A chump.
Sorry, but if you want to get this guy back, you don't get him back in a courtroom. You get him back in a ring.
That's how you do it.
And unless all of this is part of an effort to get him back in the ring, you just look like a chump. You just look like you couldn't beat him under the hot lights, so you're going to try to beat him some other kind of way. It's widespread debates as to whether or not Devin Haney is doing the right thing. Is he within his rights to do this? Yeah, he's within his rights.
He can.
He is. But in doing so, he looks like a bitch.
That's all.
Trying to squeeze a few more dollars out of Ryan Garcia, out of Golden Boy Promotions. You two look like a bunch of hacks.
Herbs.
Devin the Dream or Devin the Scheme? We'll see if he gets anywhere with this. I don't know if he will. All I know is the effect that it's having on his public image. Public perception of Devin is he's a square. He's a chump.
Well, let me finish and I'll tell you. Any boxer's camp can inspect the other boxer's choice of gloves and make an objection if they wish.
Yeah.
Frazier camp checked at the rules meeting. They said he didn't like flies, but Robert Smith said they are approved gloves and Frazier could wear them if he wished. He's saying, Shalom, that prior to the fight, all these issues, correct me if I'm wrong, he said something like there was a big concern about them. He didn't even attend the rules meeting. Why didn't he attend the rules meeting if he had that concern? If he was so concerned, he, as his representative, could have been there, but he didn't attend. Pure nonsense.
Fred, what I can tell you is we've asked Ben Shalom to join us this morning. We have had no word back from him.
Well, you won't get any word back because he's made a rick, hasn't he? And the problem he's got now, what he said is libelous.
I was going to ask you that question.
Because let me tell you why. First of all, I am the promoter of that event. It was a British Boxing Board of Control event. It was the licensed promoter. So what he's saying is that the gloves were not correct. That's what he's alleging. And that is libelous. The manufacturers of the gloves, I'm sure they're going to take that up with him. I know for a fact they will take it up with him because he is, and the guy who runs that company is a nice young fella, entrepreneurial, built a business from scratch. And what he's saying is totally out of order and wrong. And and as to say it's an investigation, you heard what the Board of Control said. How's he investigating anything? He doesn't even have the gloves. I mean, what is he? Clouseau? Does he think he's Inspector Clouseau or in each case Inspector Clueless? I mean, the man's a complete and utter idiot to even be going down this road. It's a poor excuse for what was a legitimate win. And I'm sure that Fabio wore those gloves in his previous fight. And the irony of all this is, I understand tomorrow night Adam Azim, who's fighting on his bill, wears fly gloves. What planet is this guy on?
Could Fabio not have some legal recompense
Everybody
as well?
concerned has. The allegation is unfounded, it's untrue, it's stupid, naive, and it's like clutching at straws for a defeat.
Because isn't he effectively calling your man a cheat?
Like, if you're saying that you're wearing gloves and he's hearing the gloves are dodgy, I mean, you heard it. That is exactly what you're saying. Is what people think, and it's outrageous. It aggravates me that we've had a great show there. Go through all this, fabulous win for Fabio. There are winners and losers in boxing. Take the loss as what it was. I mean, it wasn't like it was an inconclusive or a debatable decision with judges. I mean, it was a brutal knockout. End of story. Yeah. And the one person who's not complained is Fraser.
You often hear me say that there's no such thing as a free lunch. What that means is that everything costs something. Even what you don't outright say, but what you imply, that could cost you as well, because it's either a defect or a deviant.
Huh?
You're either blaming the knockout on a manufacturer's defect with those particular gloves,
The brand.
or you're blaming Fabio Wortley, that he somehow tampered with them and he was able to inflict more damage than usual. Otherwise, what's this investigation you're talking about? All this concern over what gloves Fabio Wortley used in the fight, which nobody heard nothing about, by the way.
Not until afterwards.
How convenient. Your guy gets stopped in one round and now we've got to form a search party.
Search party. Search for what?
Search for an excuse as to why Fraser got stopped so fast. Should have let sleeping dogs lie, Benny boy. You're doing more damage to Fraser's image by dragging this out and making these insinuations. You know what they are.
You know what you're doing.
Even if you don't say it outright, you at least know not to do that. What you imply is just as bad. There's no need for an investigation. Not that there is one.
According to Frank, you ain't even got the gloves.
According to Frank, your guy, Adam Azim, who's boxing this weekend, he uses that same brand of gloves. Should O'Hara Davies have him investigated now?
Sometimes the best thing you can do is shut the hell up.
Shut up. You're just making it worse. We saw what things have been like between Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn. Stepping on toes and trying to poach their fighters like Joshua Buatsi and Lawrence Okoli. Things didn't get that bad, but now he's messing with Bricktop.
Uh-oh.
He's not going to take this lying down, even if you just insinuate it. The insinuation in and of itself might be libelous. So because your guy lost this past weekend, it's got to be a national incident? We need to conduct an investigation?
Or is that just you saving face for your fighter?
Things are getting nasty in the British boxing scene, and Ben is poking the bear. He shouldn't do that.
Sometimes you do better with what you don't say.
Keep your mouth shut, Benny boy.